Hi guys, welcome to Piece of Code. So we are going to continue with our journey on the OCA crash course that we discussed in the first lecture. So we are going to start with one of the topics today, and let's see where it goes, right? So I'll try to make the sessions as much fun as possible so that you guys don't get bored. All right, don't forget to subscribe. All right, so today's topic we are going to start with chapter 1. All right, that is the Java building blocks, and these are the subtopics that we are going to cover in this particular sessions. So we're going to start with the understanding the Java class structure, writing a main method, understanding package declaration and imports, creating objects, distinguishing between object references and primitives, declaring and initializing variables, understanding default initialization of variables, scopes, ordering of elements in class, garbage collection, and then we are going to see some questions from which can come from this particular section. All right, so let's start. So the basic thing that you should know before diving into any kind of Java programming is that you need to understand the class structure in Java. All right, so in Java programs, classes are the basic building blocks. All right, while defining a class, you describe all the parts and characteristics. All right, now basically if we try to put it in simpler terms, right, if you try to compare it with some real life scenarios, if we compare a student class, right, it has some characteristics and behavior. For example, let me open up this notepad over here. If we consider a student class, right, it has some characteristics and behavior. So characteristics of a class actually define some information about that class. So what can be some information about the student class? It can be name, roll number, right? Roll number can be some information about it. Phone number, right? School name, something like that. So these are all some information about that class, so which is given by these characteristics. And then a particular class can have some behaviors, right? So basically behaviors mean that what the class can do. For example, what the student class can do. So basically if we talk about behaviors, sorry, not here. If we talk about behaviors, so a student can study a particular subject, right? A student can play something, right? Now these behaviors are given by methods. All right, we're going to talk about what are methods, but just understand this thing. And the characteristics are given by the variables, and the behaviors are given by the methods or functions, whatever you want to say. All right, so this is the fundamental things, and these variables and methods make the class members. We say it as class members. All right, so that is how a particular class works in Java. Now if you see a particular example of a particular class, public class animal, so we use the class keyword along with the class name, and then it is enclosed within a pair of curly braces right here. Don't worry about this public keyword over here. It just means that this class is accessible from anywhere. All right, it just means like that. This is actually an access specifier. We're going to learn about access specifier in details later on in this course series. All right, now let us try out some codes right now. Let us see some practical examples of a class. All right, so what I'm going to use for showing you the practical examples is this Eclipse IDE, this integrated development environment. It's my favorite for Java development. You can easily download this IDE from here from the Eclipse website itself. I'm going to link this the thing in the description section. You can directly click on that and download the Eclipse software. All right, okay, so let's go back to Eclipse over here and let us create a new Java project first. All right, so we'll go to File, New, Java project. And as we are going through the OCA series, let's name it as OCA. All right, let it be JDK 8. click on next, and click on finish. All right. Now remember one thing, guys, in Java, right, whatever you write, it should be inside a class. You cannot actually write some code outside of a class. Like in Python, you can just write it without a class, right? Just write it anywhere. But in class, it's a basic building block, as we have discussed. So basically, you have to write everything in a class. All right. So let us create a simple class, right? Let us create a simple class. Just right click over here in the src directory and click on new class. Let us name the class as animal, right? Let us name it as animal, and let us click on finish. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit so that will be visible to you guys. Now, as I've told you, right, a particular class has class members, which are variables, basically they are the characteristics, and some methods, which is basically the behavior. Let us talk about the variables as of now. Okay, we are going to go in depth about variables and methods in the later sessions, but for now, for your understanding, just think about variables as some information and the methods as the behavior of a particular class. All right. So an animal can have a name, so string name, right? So that is one of the characteristics or variables, we can say. And let's say an animal string species, something like that, right? So basically that is the thing. And if you are talking about the behavior of the particular animal, right? So basically what can be the methods associated with an animal? So we can just say void sound, and basically we are going to let's say just display something inside this method, right? So sysout, we're going to just say this animal is a dog and it barks. So for example, whenever this particular method is called, right, basically this particular line of code will get executed. So basically if you try to understand the syntax of this particular method, you see that it has a return type with the method name right over here. So basically this is also a keyword. So void return type means that this particular method that you see, or the function, does not return any value. It just executes this piece of code and that's it, it's done with it. It doesn't return any value. Now if you are going to see an example about returning some value, let's see another example, right? Let's see this example. I'm just going to say public string get name, right? So this particular method is responsible for returning a string value, right? Because here I have mentioned that the return type should be string and the method name is get name, and as the name suggests, I want to return the name of the animal. So I'm just going to say return name over here. So basically if someone calls this method from somewhere, we're going to see how to call a method later on, but for now just understand that when this method is called, it is going to return a string value, which is the name. Also, let's do one other thing. Let's see, let's also create one more method. So public void set name. All right, now this method will have one parameter over here, string new name, right? It will accept one parameter, and what it will do is it will set the new name that is coming in as parameter to the name. So name equals to new name. All right. So that is how these methods and variables work, and these are all class members. Now there is a name for these two methods that we see over here. These are known as getters and setters. All right. So if I'm going to spell it out, it is known as getters and setters. As the name suggests, these types of methods are used to set a particular value or get a particular value. Basically, they are used to set the value of class members, the variables, and also get their value. We're going to dig deep into getters and setters later on and what are their importance in the later sessions. But for now, just understand from a class structure point of view that these are also only methods, even though they are getters and setters. All right, so this is how a particular general class looks like, right? We are going to actually dig deep into advanced class design in later sessions. All right. Now let us go to another topic for today's lecture, that is the main method. Now if you're going to see this particular main method, right, it sounds pretty much of like कि ये क्या है, बहुत बड़ा चीज़ है. Actually it has a lot of importance if you see. So basically a Java program begins execution with its main method, right? And basically the main method is responsible for executing your code. Now there is something known as JVM, which stands for the Java Virtual Machine, and it is responsible for running your Java code. Now when the JVM encounters your class, right, it searches for a very special method that is known as the main method. And not only any main method, it should have this exact signature. Now this is known as the method signature. If anything else kind of is there with the name main, it will not consider it as a main method. So it should have this exact things. It should have the public keyword, it should have the static keyword, it should have a void keyword, and then the main. And then it should have an array of strings. If it is anything that differs, then it will not work. Let's take an example, right? Someone told you to deliver something to a particular person, right? To your friend. Now basically if you don't know the exact location of the particular person's house, or for example you don't know that person, then you won't be able to deliver it correctly. So you don't know where to go. So that's how the JVM interacts with the main method. If it doesn't know, it doesn't find the right syntax, it is not able to execute it. Let's see an example of this thing, right? So let's see an example. I'm just going to create another class over here, new class, and I'm going to name it as zoo, and let's click on finish, and let us write the main method right now as it goes: public static void main string arguments, and it is an array. We are going to see more about arrays later on. So this is how it goes, right? Now let us write something in this thing. So for now the particular code doesn't do anything useful, right? It has no instructions other than to declare the entry point. It does not illustrate in a sense that you can put in a main method is arbitrary. It's nothing there. So basically if you try to run this code, nothing will happen. So let us try to write something in this particular code. So sysout, and let us give a display message like, hi, I am a main method, something like that, right? And let us execute this code, right? Right click, it's very easy to execute in here, run as Java application. So you can see that the main method got executed over here. Now what happens is that in the exam they will be trying to trick you. They will just, instead of writing main, they will write mains. Now they will ask you if the particular code compiles or not. Now the code will compile, there is no issue in the code, but it will not run. It will not produce any kind of output. If you see over here, if I do a run as, then there is no option over here to run the class because there is no main method. Now if I do like this, right, if I just copy paste it here, and if I just see, and if I just keep it like this, right, they can confuse it with some kind of this syntax. This particular phenomenon is known as method overloading. We are going to see what method overloading is later on, but they will try to confuse you like this, right? You will think that, oh my god, these are looking exactly the same, but you have to see that this main is there or not. It is mains and this is main. So this method will get executed instead of this method. So now if I run the code, run as Java application, then this method got ran because this is the actual main method. Now let us understand why this particular main method is syntax is like this. Now there are a couple of things that you need to understand before actually going through it. Don't worry about this public, static and everything. We are going to learn all that in depth later on. Now a main method should be public because in simpler terms, the JVM is outside of your package, outside of your project. It is outside. It is somewhere else. Wherever you have installed JDK, the JVM is at that place, right? So basically, if your method is not public, so it makes sense that JVM will not be able to find it, right? As I've told you, if you mark something as public, it is basically accessible anywhere. Now the second thing is why it is static. Now if you have a little bit of idea about Java, we have created this class, but still we cannot use this class because we haven't created an object of this animal class. So an object is just a running instance of this particular class. So unless we create an object, we are not being able to call this method or set any value on these two variables, right? So static, whatever you mark it as static, you can directly actually access that particular thing using the class name. So basically the JVM will try to access this particular zoo class by doing this thing, zoo.main, directly without even creating the class object, right? And that makes sense because JVM cannot create objects. So if it is not static, then basically it cannot access the main method. And then so basically the main is main. So basically the main method should named as main. And other thing is that it doesn't return any value. It doesn't make any sense to actually return any value. What will JVM do with a returned value from the main method, right? It doesn't actually make any sense. Now that was all about the main method. Oh, sorry. Then we have this arguments, right? So basically what this particular thing means, like this arguments array that we see over here. So basically when you run the code, you can actually supply some arguments over here. For example, you want to give some input, right? So it will come in this particular array. If you give multiple inputs, it will come as elements of this array. For example, if you give the element, if you give the input as dog and cat, right? So the args that is an array, right? And array has indexes. We are going to learn about arrays later on, but for now just understand that arrays have indexes. So at the 0th index, dog will be present. So you can access dog if you want to access it. And at the number 1 index, right, there will be cat, because obviously there are 2 elements in the array and index of an array starts with 0. Let's try that out. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say sysout args of 0, right? Just let's do this thing and let us give some arguments over here. So run as run configurations. If you go to run configurations, and let's go to arguments and program arguments, let's give as dog and then run the code. So you see that dog is printed over here. I am accessing the first element of the array and the first element of the array is dog. So I'm able to access that. What happens if I do this thing? Args of 1. They'll try to confuse you in the exam by doing this thing, this kind of stuff. And they will give the arguments of the particular array as like this. They will just say they will only give one argument or something like that. They're going to say 1 and they're going to say 2 like this. Now don't get confused in this particular scenario. There is only actually one argument over here. Unless you give a space between these two arguments, there are not two arguments. If there is a space, then this is the first argument and this is the second argument, and this code will run perfectly because At 0th index there is 1, and at 1 index there is 2. But they will not do that. They can try to confuse you, and they will give this kind of input. And when I run the code, an exception is thrown that says that array index out of bounds exception. We are going to learn about exception later on, but it says array index out of bounds exception because there is no index with one element. Sorry, there is no element in the first index. That makes sense because there is only one element. So make sure you are aware of this thing, and they actually try to trick you with this thing in the exam. All right, so that was about the main method. So before wrapping it up, let's discuss about one more topic, that is known as comments. All right, so basically comments are used to for documentation purposes. They are actually ignored by the compiler, right? So basically you will not be able to actually execute a comment. So there are various types of comments. Let us discuss them. Actually, comments do not come in the exam. We are just going to, for information purposes, we are going to just look at them. So this is known as a single line comment, right? So anything that you write in a single line, you just give 2 slashes and write whatever you want. And if you execute the code, right, if you execute the code, then basically these 2 lines are ignored. Let me just remove this thing. All right. Now another type of comment is known as a multi-line comment, and it starts like this. So /1/, then give a star like this, then write whatever you want. All right, so this */ marks the end of the comment, something like this. So /* and */. So this is how the multi-line comment works. The last type of comment is known as a Java doc comment. So basically this kind of comment looks like this. So it kind of looks like this thing. So /*, and this is kind of a Java doc comment. And you can just specify the author name, let's say Akash over here, like this. And this is an example of a Java multi-line comment. Sorry, multi-line, not multi-line. It is Java doc comment. Now let us talk about what is the advantage of Java doc comment. Basically this comment is similar to the multi-line comment. The special syntax tells the Java doc tool to pay attention to the comment. It means that Java doc comments have a specific structure that the Java doc tool knows how to read. It kind of tells you, like, let's say this author, right? There is a thing that yes, it tells that yes, the author is me, and some other type of information. Generally Java doc comments are written over a class. It is not written inside the code or inside the main method, somewhere like that. All right, so these are all about comments. Now let us talk about something else, right? Before wrapping it up, there is one more thing that I want to discuss, that is known as classes versus files. Now there is a little bit of confusion over this particular concept, right? So basically as you can see over here, all the Java classes, the files end with .java extension. And if you see over here, this class name and the file name are the same, and it is a convention that should be followed. But don't think that a particular file can have only one class. That is wrong, and in the exam they try to confuse you with that. If I create another class over here, so class bear, right? You see there is no compilation error over here. There is no compilation error. What if I try this thing? What if I try public class dog, something like that? When I try to do this, now I find an error. And what does it say? It says that public type dog must be defined in its own file. Now this particular error says that a particular file can have multiple classes, but it cannot have more than one public class. All right, we can have n number of this non-public classes, but we cannot have more than one public class. So that is about this files in Java. Keep that in mind. They can confuse you in the in the exam by keeping two classes in the same file, and they will ask you if this will throw an error or compilation issue, but that is not the case. It will not throw any kind of issues. All right guys, so I think we are done with the session today. So in this particular session, what do we learn? We learned about the Java class structure, we learned about comments, we learned about the main method, its importance, and then we saw some code and some exam tips. So wrapping it up with some exam pointers. So these are some kind of a summary. So classes are the basic building block. Variables hold the data, and methods are responsible to do an action based on the instruction given, as we saw in the code. They are the class members. Comments are ignored by the compiler. It is used for documentation purposes. The main method is the entry point of any Java program. The Java virtual method tries to find this method to execute the method in it. So execute the code in it. My bad. A Java file can contain only one public class. Now keep that in mind. That is really important. It can have multiple non-public classes, but it can only have one public class. So one public class per file. Remember that. All right guys, so thank you for watching till the end. I hope you liked this session. So we will continue with the topics, with the next topics in the next session onwards. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with whoever it is preparing for the OCA certification. Yeah, bye bye.